Today in this lesson we're going to be talking about the default views and the different panels that are essential to you creating your game. So when you start Unity, you will see this startup screen, okay? And over here, this basically lists down all the projects that you have already created, and the get started panel where you will see different training videos, or it basically explains to you how do you get working with Unity. So in projects panel, this list, it basically has every project that you have created in Unity listed over here. If you cannot find your project in this list over here, you can always choose open other and point it to wherever you have saved your project. So like right now, the two projects that you see over here, lesson 1 and project 1, they are both here, and these are the default folders that Unity creates for every project that you create. Right, so for us, we're going to start with a new project. So you can just click on new project, and Unity will ask you to provide a name for your project. So we're going to say lesson 1 version 2. So this is basically the name of your game. So let's say you're creating a shooting game in space, so you would probably call it space shooter or something like that. So this name is for your reference only. This is not what you show in the game. So name it to whatever is most sensible to you. You can choose a location where to save it. So the default is in the documents folder in C drive. You can just click here and change it to wherever you want to save it. So just like that. And then you have an option to select 3D or 2D. Since version 4.5 or 4.3, I'm not really sure, Unity started having a separate setting for 2D games, right? So the difference between a 3D game and a 2D game is all the default values will be set for 2D instead of 3D. We'll talk about that further down as we go ahead, but for now we're going to leave it at 3D. Then you have the asset packages. So in Unity, you have different packages that you can create yourself, or you can download from the asset store. Unity provides you with a plethora of packages to start with. So these are the default installations when you install Unity. So you can choose any one of these. For now, we're not going to use any of them. I'm just going to say done. And I'm just going to say create project. And it's as simple as that. And Unity is going to create the project for you, and you will be greeted with the first screen. Now these are the various panels that you are going to be using over and over again in creating your game. So of all the projects, of all the panels, these are the most important ones, right? The hierarchy panel, the project panel, the scene view, the inspector. So let's get down to understanding each of these panels individually, right? To begin with, your projects panel. So your projects panel is basically the place where you will store everything that's going to go into your scene. Let's say you have like 10 different enemy characters, you have 5 different player characters with different outfits, different avatars. So all the 3D models, all the programs, all the scripts that you write for your game, they're all stored in the project folder, right? So the project viewer, this panel over here, is exactly like your Windows file explorer, right? It basically lets you explore all the files that you have in your project. So when you right click on the assets folder, you can create different things over here. It's always a good idea to have your assets organized in folders right from the beginning, because as the project grows, it gets into a big messy situation, and you don't want that, right? So we're gonna do that. We're gonna keep our folders organized. So let's say you're gonna have scenes, you're gonna have different models. Oops, that's not models, it's models. You're gonna have different scripts that you're gonna write, and you're gonna have, I don't know, a whole bunch of different things, prefabs, all that, right? So it's always a good idea to have your folders organized right from the get-go, right? And once you select a folder, you can see it over here in this panel, and it will have all the files listed inside. So that's the project panel. Next comes the hierarchy panel. So project panel is somewhere where you'll have all your files throughout your entire game stored. The hierarchy panel, on the other hand, it lists down everything that you have for one particular scene. Now, a scene is basically one level in Unity, right? So let's say you have a game where in your space shooter game, right? You have two different environments, one where you're fighting outside in space, and one where you're fighting close to the ground. So you'll see a completely different environment. So you would create them as two separate scenes, right? So let's say this is our first scene, right? I'm going to save it. When you save it, it's going to ask you to save your scene. Remember, Unity, everything that you put in the assets folder is there forever, okay? And anything you delete from the assets folder is removed forever. So just keep that in mind, right? So when I press Control S, it'll ask me to save the scene. Now, like we said, we're gonna keep our files organized right from the beginning. So I'm gonna save this scene in the scenes folder, and I'm gonna call this level 1, right? Now, once I save it, you're gonna see that in level 1, in the scenes folder, you have your level 1 scene, right? Now, this particular scene, every asset, everything that you're going to be using in this scene will be listed in the hierarchy panel. So every scene by default will have a camera and a light to start off with, okay? And so that's your hierarchy view. So remember, project view will have everything that your game is ever going to have stored inside this, and the hierarchy panel only shows you what is there in this particular scene. Next comes the scene view. So the scene view is basically where you put together your game. So any models that you want to include over here, any lights, any cameras that you want to include over here in the scene is all set up over here. So whatever levels that you're creating, everything that you want in the level is what you put inside the scene view over here. Few options that you should know about in the scene view: the different shading modes. So the shading modes basically let you see how you want to see your models over here. So let's say I'm going to create a simple cube over here, right? And now this cube in shaded view, it will show you a solid cube. But if you change it to wireframe, it's just going to show you the wireframe of it. It's quite useful when you have like a whole bunch of objects and you're finding it too difficult to spot a particular object. So you can always switch from that. The shaded wireframe view will kind of give you a wireframe over the shaded object itself. Useful if you want to understand how many triangles you got in your model and all. You'll come to know about it as we go further, right? So we're gonna keep it to shaded right now. Show you the different shadows, rendering paths, alpha channels. You'll come to that individually, right? This is the 2D view. So when you, like explained to you before, if you start a 2D project, Unity by default will have the 2D view switched on. So when you keep the 2D view on, Unity will basically show you the scene view from a front view instead of a 3D view like this, right? So you can switch it like this. This is still not the 2D view because if you see over here, it tells you what view we are seeing. So right now we are looking at the scene view in perspective mode, okay? You can say top, front, right, left. Yep, you can't read it clearly.